Hi everyone, welcome to Str8 Legendary, the show where I tell you about my creative projects and I help you with your creative projects. I'm Steff, and this is my guest for today. This is Nick. Say hi, Nick.
How you doing?
Nick is a very special guest. Well, all my guests are special.
Not as special as others.
Well, I think you're going to do a great job of living up to being quite the special guest because we're talking about one of my favorite things in all the world, and that's film. So, I'm super excited to dive in with you about film. But before we go there, I want to ask you a little bit about yourself. Where you grow up, tell us about your creative journey, you know?
Sure, yeah. Well, I grew up in the great state of Ohio, lived here all my life. Went to school to become a graphic designer, but I always knew that I wanted to do something creative. When I got into graphic design, it's like, I think I want to do more than that. So I ended up getting into the filmmaking process, and now that's actually my official title is a filmmaker, but it's not the kind that you think. I'm not working in Hollywood or anything like that. Yet. But,
Yet.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Just wait.
So you started drawing like from a very young age?
Yes.
So
always drawing.
What was your favorite thing to draw when you were a kid?
Anything from movies to comic books or any of like the animated TV shows I was following, like Ninja Turtles or G.I. Joe or Transformers, anything like that. Anything animated, I was like.
So comic books, you love comic books?
Love them, yep.
As a kid, who was your favorite comic book character?
Grew up reading Spider-Man from the very first episode, they don't call it episodes, but the very first all the way through until my dad's collection stops. Yeah, he was a collector, so he introduced me to it. So I have to thank him for that. Yeah.
Shout out to Nick's dad.
Yeah.
It's that's super cool, man. I also grew up it's the crazy thing about me is that I actually didn't start collecting comic books until I was an adult.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was into the Marvel cards.
Yeah.
Do you remember those? You could go to the store, you can get a package of them, like 10 or 12 cards came in. Like that was the huge thing in my neighborhood. And we had these big stacks of cards, and that's how I first learned about all the Marvel characters, just reading the backs of the bios on the cards.
Yeah.
Before I ever picked up a comic book. I think I had been collecting the cards for, 8-9 years before I ever picked up my first comic book and started reading it.
You got the Cliff Notes version.
Got the Cliff Notes version, right? I knew who all the characters were. I had one picture of the characters, and then I had to do short bios.
Yeah, and you made up your own stories in your head with them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagination without limitation. Come on, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. So, but eventually I got into creating my own comic book characters, and so I'm gonna talk a little bit about a book that I just recently released through my company, The Creative Extreme. This is Alpha Initiative Alpha Initiative Dossier 001, the declassified version. It's a graphic novel, 76 pages. You can get it at thecreativeextreme.com. It'll be right there. Yep, there you go, right on the screen. It'll be right there on the screen. You guys should check it out. We have some poster art back there, the Alpha Initiative on it, so you can also go to the website and check that out. But get the book. It's $20 at thecreativeextreme.com. My boy Chris wrote it. I edited it. We had an incredible team of artists that put it together. Check it out. It's our debut graphic novel that came out just at the beginning of this year. All right. So, have you gotten your copy yet, Nick?
Not, but I did read it.
That's awesome. Hopefully one day this guy's adapting this into a movie.
I hope so.
Anyway, so I want to talk to you about film and about movies. So we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to jump right into it.
Let's do it.
Thanks for joining us.
Now, I don't know what y'all doing over there, but talking about y'all go hard and all that. Me and my squad, we don't go hard. We go alpha. Yeah, I got a mean old team. Addicted to killing, and we don't even need no lean. Hot, we don't need no steam. Full clip, plus I'm in the whip. Jalapeno green. Look at the crown. I call my nigga gravity. The way they always holding me down, and the world trying to color me brown. Who cares? Haters like air, cause they always around. Hold a pound like I'm holding a fetus. A real OG. I got more stripes than Adidas. Plus I'm always in the spot like a cheetah. Watch this. Banana clip, soul on the floor. Don't slip. Even though they in my feet, I won't trip. I make nigga dip so much, I brought chips. I'm out here running the code. Now you can't feel your soul like running in cold weather. Yeah. Weather. Yeah. Listen. If y'all go hard, we go alpha. 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 Yeah.
And we are back with Str8 legendary and today's guest, Nick Lake. Nick, you are a filmmaker at work, but you also want to be a filmmaker outside of work, right?
Love being a filmmaker.
So one of the cool things that, from your story is that, you were, doing graphic design and you were working for different companies, and finally one day you decided that, boom, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to make my own films. I'm going to make my own movies, right?
Yeah.
So I want to really talk about what are the things that kept you from making movies before? Like what are the challenges that you found, or what are the things that stood in the way of you just going out there and doing it?
Yeah. Well, the first part was trying to come up with the original idea to make the movie or the short about. Trying to come up with that was usually the biggest stumbling block, because you could always like second guess yourself, and it's like editing as you're writing, and it's like the worst thing to do. You just like flow and get it all going, and then you can go back to it. That was the hardest part. Then the other part was, it's like, well, I don't have the equipment to do this. Now everybody has a camera in their pocket, and you can shoot stuff how you want to. And then I thought I had all these grand ideas. It's like, it's not going to look the way I want it to look. But that's not really what it's about. I mean, it's just about getting out there and making movies. So there's a guy I follow on YouTube. His name is David F. Sandberg. He directed Shazam, actually. And he's got this thing, don't make excuses, make movies. So it's like, all right, I'm going to follow that. I'm going to start doing this.
Man, I love that idea.
Yeah.
Don't make excuses, make movies, because there's so many excuses that we can make.
Yeah.
I mean, I know when I was starting my business, The Creative Extreme, I wanted to do film, I wanted to do these big comic books, but I mean, I didn't have the resources.
Yeah.
I didn't have, all the, I didn't have, access to something that I can make a big, huge, like, Marvel movie or big, So I decided to take a smaller approach and say, okay, let me do what I can do, but the big key is to get some content out there.
Exactly.
Because we can second guess ourselves all day.
Exactly.
Like I thought it was very interesting that you mentioned, I don't have all the things that I need, or I don't have all the grand, big ideas, But at the end of the day, you just got to jump in and make it happen.
Yeah. Practice makes perfect with that.
Practice, absolutely. Especially in filmmaking, where there's so many different like moving parts and everything like that. So tell me this. So when did you know that you wanted to be a filmmaker?
Specific moment. I'm probably a 10-year-old kid. My dad had introduced me to the Star Wars original trilogy, and I instantly fell in love with it. Well, they were coming out with special editions to kind of hype it up before Episode 1 came out. And I saw a making of, which I think it was on one of the big 4 channels, or it might have been on like Discovery. Regardless, I saw the making of how they kind of repurposed these and added new effects, and that was the first ever behind the scenes making of I ever saw. And I was like, this is amazing. And so I've always had that, like, I wonder how they did that type of thing. And then I saw it, and it's like, I want to do that. And so ever since then, it's like I've always had this drive. Like, I really want to get into doing that and making it. So you can watch all these VFX breakdown reels now. We didn't have YouTube back then, so you could just like hop on and watch the stuff whenever you wanted to. So you had to like record it if it was coming on or something. So,
but now today we can see like all of that behind the scenes stuff. We can see how movies are made. We can see what people are doing. And I think it's one of the most interesting things is that we see this movie, right? We see a movie, we go and we watch for 2 hours, and I've always been someone who likes to sit and watch the credits at the end of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Because those, that hour and a half, that 2 hours of magic that we're watching, hundreds of people, went into making that. It's a true team effort. It's a true team creative effort. And I think when you find people who are willing to jump on board with you and help you make your movie or help you bring your idea to life, you gotta run with that. You know? Whether you have all the fanciest equipment or not, it's important to remember, like you said, we have cameras. We have high-powered cameras in our pockets now.
We do.
We're using one of those high-powered cameras to make this show right now.
Yeah. It's even better. Like all the software that you think you need, like the high-end stuff, you can get a lot of the free stuff now. Like even 3D software, which is actually used in the VFX industry. You can download it for free and use it on your computer and learn it. There's so many tutorials out there on YouTube and Vimeo and all over the place. You just gotta dive in and give the effort and put yourself into it, and you'll come out learning something. You may not be perfect at it right away, but that's not the point. You'll get perfect at it.
I was recently at a comic convention, and I spoke at this comic convention, and a lot of people asked me, how do I get into creating, especially when I don't have all the resources, which is kind of the theme of this episode right now.
Yeah.
And I tell people that, everyone looks at these end products. They look at, Avengers, Endgame, and they're like, oh my goodness, I could never make a movie that's that big and that's huge. And I always tell them, well,
they don't have hundreds of millions of dollars behind them either.
Yeah, right. But here's the thing, right? I believe Marvel is celebrating its 80th year this year, 2019. They're celebrating their 80th year.
Yeah.
That means they started 80 years ago, and 80 years ago, they started with a 10-cent comic book.
Yep.
About Captain America.
They didn't
I think it was Captain America
until what, like 2001 or 2?
Right, until way later, or the first movie that any of us know about. Like, there's a few, movies we don't like to mention that they made.
They weren't released.
They were released, But everyone looks at Endgame and no one looks at the 10-cent comic that it started.
Right.
And if you want to be a creator, especially in the film business, you can't necessarily jump in and say, if I can't make a huge movie, then I can't do it. No. Pick up your phone, pick up your camera, point it at something, and start shooting.
Yeah.
That is a movie, as we call them home movies for a reason.
Exactly.
Because if it's moving and it's on film, it's a movie,
Yeah.
Have no excuse, go out there and do it, you know?
Even outside of that, whenever I'm walking around, sometimes I'll just come up with an idea and it's like, so I have a note on my phone that's got 15 stories deep in it, just this is a good idea, and I just can either expand on that, and that's usually where some of these short film ideas come from, or it's something that just comes out of the blue from I was listening to a podcast and they mentioned something, it's I'm gonna write a story about that. Inspiration comes from everywhere, really.
Yeah, inspiration is all around us.
It is.
It is all around us, and we don't have to feel self-conscious about telling our own stories. It's okay to tell a story that you may not think is, like I said, the end-all be-all, the masterpiece.
Yeah.
But start somewhere, right? Just
Absolutely.
get out there, make a film, make a movie. It's not going to look exactly the way you imagine it the first time, the second time, maybe even the 10th time.
No.
But the more you start making movies, the more you start trying, the more you learn, and the better and better they look as you go along. So, and I think that we all have stories we want to tell.
For sure.
I think we all have stories we want to tell, and I think we shortchange ourselves when we don't think our stories are valid just because they can't look like the big professional things that we see.
And that's not what it's about.
It's not what it's about. It's about telling that story, right?
Yeah.
It's about getting it out there. So,
So
I am super excited to talk to you because you actually talked to me just about a week ago about perhaps working together on a project.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a film festival coming up in our local town here that we like to. We put something in there last year, and I just had this idea. The team that I work with at work, we all are just we love making movies, and that's our job. So we wanted to put something in there. It's well, who's got an idea? And I just started I wrote this thing down. It's it just started flowing. And that's like the best feeling in the world. And it happens
so
sometimes.
cool.
It doesn't happen all the time. Don't get like the wrong idea. But then it's like, well, okay, I got to turn this treatment into a script, and it just flew. It was like, wow, this is amazing. And so it's like, all right, I think that's what we're gonna end up doing.
So cool. That is so cool. I can't wait. I know you can't say much about it now.
No, not
you
yet.
gotta keep it in wraps. But I'm super excited, and I can't wait to see how that all comes together, man.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. That's so exciting.
Well, you're gonna help, so.
So I can't wait to get involved. I can't wait to get involved. And then one more thing, so as you've helped out with some stuff with the Creative Extreme before, and now moving forward, like we have so many amazing ideas that we're doing with the Creative Extreme. Stay tuned. www.thecreativeextreme.com. Check it out. It's gonna be right here. It's gonna be a lot of stuff coming. But and we have talked about perhaps collaborating on some type of documentary talking about the Creative Extreme.
Yeah.
Which I'm super excited about, of course.
Yeah.
Because the Creative Extreme was one of the things that, just like we were talking about, I had the idea, I wanted to do, all this big stuff, but I was like, you know what? I gotta find a way to, do it in incremental, small steps.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that I wanted to get content out there without having to, have, a huge budget, and and it's been working. The last couple of years we've been getting content out there, and I thought it'd be really cool, when you presented the idea to me, is to do some type of documentary or something talking about the creative process. So I mean, I'm super amped to jump in on that.
That's one of the things that we do at the company I work for, is we go into organizations and we interview their people about what it's like to work there. What does it mean to you to be there? So that's like when you started talking about Creative Extreme a couple years ago when we first met, it's like, I would like to know, why did you start it? What does it mean to you? What's the end goal? All that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I have so much to say about the Creative Extreme.
You got a lot of passion about it, and that's what people want to hear about,
So, and I would go into it right now, but we are out of time.
Yep.
So this has been another episode of Str8 Legendary. I'd like to thank Nick for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If you want to see more about about Str8 Legendary, check us out on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube, of course, because this is where you're seeing the show. If you want to see more of the creative work that I do, you can see it at www.steffonthomas.com. It'll be right here. So if you don't know how to spell Stefan, it'll be right there. And you can also see more about the Creative Extreme at www.thecreativeextreme.com. And in the coming months and coming years, we're going to see more work from Nick here. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to do it.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Str8 Legendary, where imagination without limitation is the only expectation. See you next time.